Hello and welcome to the final bell. I'm very excited to the final bell because the Cats have had a win. We've got a wonderful guest coming up. James Kelly, my old sparring partner, is going to join us, and we've got your questions as well. We are brought to you by Lake Imaging, as we are every single week. Thanks to the guys at Lake Imaging for supporting this podcast. We love all of our supporters, all of our listeners, and I'm joined by a man that I am just happy that he has survived the Warrnambool, is it Cup Carnival or Warrnambool Jumps Carnival or Warrnambool Races? I'll just put it simply like that. Scotty Gullan is with me. We had Mitch Cleary fill in for him last week, filled in admirably. Big thanks to Mitch from afl.com.au for filling in. But Scotty's back. Just tell us, how was your little jaunt down to Warrnambool?
Well, my age may have got me in the end, Cameron. I was in bed by Thursday by 9 o'clock.
Really?
That's so...
You are, what, 58 years old?
I'm barely...
59.
Barely 40. So it was good fun, great time, lots of men drinking and betting. So I was in good company.
It's pretty much, I think half of Geelong ends up down there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a... What did you call it? It's like a footy trip for
middle-aged men. It's a lot of fun, and yes, you see a lot of people you recognise. And I did see Mitch Cleary the day after he'd been bonding with you at that school of yours.
Mitch being such a professional, disciplined operator, he decided to do the podcast and then head down. You just thought, stuff the podcast, I'm going on a holiday.
He did mention that you had said some things, so I did listen in and I was interested, and I'll just let them go because I'm a bigger man.
I was reasonably gentle.
No, you were quite good actually. Okay. Then you got overindulged in your schooling and you two carried on, and that was good.
Former St Joey's boy.
He did say that. I didn't know that. They're everywhere, aren't they?
They are everywhere. I tell you what, there's one going okay at Carlton too. Sam Walsh just continues to blow away.
He's Ocean Grove Bowen Heads. They don't refer to him as St
He went
Joseph's.
to St Joey's, thank you very much. I think he was deputy captain of the school, ran the whole show. McNeil Cup winner, the lot.
So, but I was back in civilization in time for Friday night.
What a game it was.
I was on the couch, so I was a bit sort of emotional.
That's okay. I was working for radio, ABC Grandstand, and I watched the first quarter worried, Scotty. I think a few of our listeners would have been the same. Richmond were all over Geelong in that first quarter. They were swarming everywhere. And it was affecting. Geelong were coughing it up. There was pressure. There was turnovers. And at quarter time, I was thinking, oh, no. It felt overwhelming. The second quarter, Geelong completely turned it round the other way. Didn't get total reward for it in the second quarter yet, but they spun the game 180 degrees. And then that third quarter was phenomenal. I did not see that happening.
8 goals 4 to 1 goal 2. That doesn't happen against Richmond. That does not happen. And there's a lot of people, special people, who rate a mention on this. Sava Radaglia in the ruck. Great move. First game for the season.
Yeah, late change for Reece Stanley went out. Sava comes in, and it was him and Blitzarv's combo in the ruck, and it worked.
See, the Blitz thing, we are torn, aren't we? Because there's some weeks we sit here and we go, oh, he's all Australian fullback, why change it? And then he plays like that, and now I'm sort of like, that combination looks good.
Well, can I add a little caveat perhaps to my got to play Blitz at fullback? The last 3 weeks of Jack Henry...
Since what happened to Jack's life?
He did join us on the podcast.
But
and then
there's a correlation. There's a distinct...
Yeah, signed a new deal and everything. He has played the best 3-week block of his career. It's a short career, I get that. I'm sure there's highs to come. But he's been brilliant, which allowed the flexibility of Blitzarves on Friday night.
Maybe we just have to embrace the flexibility. And also one of our favourite sons, former co-host, who was left out of round one.
Reginald, who had a sore back in round one.
Who's fought his way back. But he's found it, like he's been a bit without a home and still played well. But back in half back, solidifies it a bit. It just looked really nice.
It did. Although Tom Stewart's job on Dusty Martin for big portions of the game, especially early on in the first half, his decisions between when to defend Dusty, when to come and help, and ended up with a heap of footy himself, 26 disposals. And Dusty found the footy, but nowhere near as effective as we're used to seeing. It was, and I wonder, Scotty, I just wonder, we, throughout the early part of the season, were saying Geelong were scrambling wins, the Brisbane win, the Hawthorn win, but it was hard to watch, and it was slow, and it was awkward, and it was all these different things. Since quarter time of the West Coast Eagles game down here a few weeks ago, Geelong's ball movement has definitely quickened up. It's not. I'm not talking kamikaze crazy play on at all costs, but it has sped up. Even their kick mark is going forward more than just sideways, backwards. It's sped up, and it has allowed that forward line to function much better. They dominated big portions of the Sydney game, didn't get it done on the scoreboard.
Won that inside 50, that was obscene.
But it feels like they've got the balance so much better, and that forward line now is just saying thank you very much.
3 first-round draft picks look every bit. I mean, I told you he'd enjoy just being the third wheel, and talk about third wheels. Gary Rowan's enjoying playing on the third defender. I
think he's understood it best. Hawkins was enormous on the weekend. He's the one.
His unselfishness.
Yeah, kicked 4. I think had 16 score involvements, 20 possessions. So he was at times creating for the others. Gary Rowan's realised, if I sweep into a marking contest or on the ground late, they're all so worried about Jeremy and Tom. I can get on the end of a heap of these.
But Jeremy Cameron, we knew how good he was. Hadn't seen it for a little while, but just the way he moves already, those two, it's very impressive. And this is why Jeremy Cameron's here.
It is 15 goals and 42 score involvements between the three of them.
How good's that?
Very nice.
But this is your man Swamp thing. You love the Swamp. Geelong kicked 4 goals, 1 from kick-ins, the same they'd done for the first 7 rounds combined. They were just moving the ball.
They were moving the ball.
Against the best in the business.
Their pressure and contest work and outnumber work overwhelmed Richmond. I saw a side of Richmond we haven't seen for a long time. I am not in the camp of
they're not
being overly concerned about Richmond. They will be there when the whips are cracking. But they looked rattled on Friday night for the first time in a long time. They were dropping marks. They were fumbling. When there was an outnumber, it wasn't another Richmond player getting over. It was another Geelong player getting over. And that's where Geelong took the game away from them. Now, you had Prestia, Cochin, Grimes, all of these players, Lambert back into Richmond team. They're a different team.
There's a guy called Patrick Dangerfield that
that's right.
Hasn't exactly been part of Geelong's makeup.
No, very true.
I'm not sure we're going to fit him, but he'll probably get a game.
I think he will get a game. Speaking of which, a couple of little concerns out of Friday night, though.
Oh, our man. The man we pioneered or campaigned to get straight back in.
And looked good. Sammy Simpson we're talking about looked really good early on, was nice creating things, things were happening, and then unfortunately went down with what is being called a low-grade hamstring.
So that's a couple of weeks because he's got a bit of a history. Yeah, it'll be a couple of weeks.
So unfortunately, him out. Quinton Knuckle was the medical sub, came on for Sammy Simpson.
Well, looked good again. Sparkle.
Yeah, so maybe he comes in. Maybe Jordan Clark, who was omitted from the game, is a possibility.
I saw it. Yeah, the reserves are on TV on a Thursday night now.
Yes,
for some reason it was on through my haze, and he was just doing what he liked in that. So he's clearly above that level.
Another one who was doing what he liked was Darcy Fort. Was excellent in the VFL.
But the ruck situation. Well, what do we do with Reece Stanley? He was omitted. They've been a bit cagey. It was an injury. I think it was just we're going to try this.
Yep, and it worked.
So what do you do?
I'd go with it. Luke Dalhouse was sore.
Yeah, he needs a rest.
No, they're saying that he should be available.
I know, but he's not young.
No, and I suppose that's where it's a smart decision. When you've got wins on the board, you can make these where you think, okay, he's right to play, but he'd be playing at 80, 85%. Do we give him a week off and then the following week he's at 95%? No one's ever at 100, by the way, in a season.
I'd do something like that.
Okay, a couple of the other injuries. Jake Kolodjasny missed, but he's likely to miss again.
That's okay. Backline's working fine.
Maybe one more. Brian Myers, likely to miss again.
That's okay. Bradley Close is flying.
He is doing a very good job. A couple of the other guys, just for our listeners knowing who not in the role, Mark O'Connor's coming back from a hamstring injury. He's commenced running. Paddy Dangerfield, he's commencing on-field running this week.
Well,
that means he's been doing a bit of work on
you know what he's like.
Alter G, I'd say, which takes the weight off the body. Francis Evans completed the craft session.
Frank the Tank. What's the craft session?
It's
knitting?
No.
What's a craft session, Cameron?
That is where you focus in on one or two specific skills.
What,
a lot
kick,
more. Well, yeah,
mark, handball.
or ground balls, or positioning in a marking contest,
Craft
positioning in
session.
a spoiling.
Did you enjoy craft sessions?
Yeah, they're important because they're a lot lower intensity,
Okay.
lower key, and you're usually just working with 3 or 4 other players.
I'm glad the tank got through the craft session.
And he is potentially available next week, according to the club. And just on Asava too, there was some concerns at the end of the game whether or not it was concussion. Poke in the eye is all it was. He will be absolutely fine.
It's the
And,
key to the whole dance. We said this. We have said this all along.
and Cooper Stevens has resumed some football and commenced changing direction and running.
Oh.
And we'll see how he progresses in the coming
Good to
weeks,
see
just
him
for
down the
those
track.
who are wondering about Cooper Stevens. So from the game then,
Yes.
we've got
Radically.
Simpson out,
Oh, Simpson out.
Narkle in. Only
Oh,
change?
Was that Guthrie? I mean, does his role and continues to do his role?
He did enough.
He did
Like,
enough again.
I did laugh late in the game. It felt like Cam Guthrie was just picking him out when there was a few little chances for
He's going, I
some.
got a little brother. He's the one where the fans look at it and go, but to his credit, he plays a role for the coaches and does it well. And you're not going to make many changes to a team that just whopped the reigning premiers by 10 goals.
No, a team that played that well. I'm a little bit. Your thought about Luke Dalehouse, if he's even remotely sore, take the opportunity to get
There's no need.
a week off there. So perhaps there's opportunities for 2 to come in. So maybe it's Knuckle and Clark. Maybe it's someone else.
Because this week, Friday night, fast track against a very fast team, St Kilda, who I know they fluctuate up and down, but if they get going indoors, they can be a little bit slippery.
Yeah, and when they play their game, I still believe they're vulnerable. You can score against them.
Of course
and
you can.
rip
But
it-
they're going
rip
to
it
come
through
the other
middle.
way at you.
But yeah, that's right. So you need to be sharp and have the running.
And-
And if you've got a small forward who's there to put pressure on, he needs to be sharp and be able to put that pressure on.
And with this Stanley Radicalier debate, I mean, they go with Marshall and Ryder and have proven the skeptics, a la me, right. Because I thought Marshall was outstanding 2 years ago by himself. They went and got Ryder. It's like, what are you doing? But
Ryder's
It's
so
really a weapon.
clever, though.
Yes,
and
it's a weapon
he
for them.
can still be a threat up forward.
So this is a danger game, as silly as it sounds, given what we just saw Geelong do to the reigning premiers. St Kilda were okay, won at Gold Coast, good win. It's not easy to win up there. They've got their mojo back a bit.
They have a bit. But a team that I reckon isn't fully back, if you get on top of them early, you put them away, and it can be 2 goals each a quarter time, but you just take away any of their movement and their confidence. You can strip it away really quickly from there, and it can turn in. The goals will come later on in the second, third, early in the fourth quarters, and you can break them then if you do that hard, disciplined work in the first term.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
It's just a bit of a, not danger game, but it's a messy matchup, St Kilda, sometimes, at Metricon. Not Metricon, what's it called?
Marvel. Yes.
I get them confused. I was going to say.
You had a big week last week, Scotty. I'm
coming out the other side of it, just.
I don't mind the odd little mistake after a big week like that.
I never make mistakes.
Josh Jenkins kicked 7 in the VFL too, just for discussion's sake.
Yes, he seemed to have the ball on a string.
Yep.
They won comfortably against Northern.
I don't think Josh is getting in over Jeremy Cameron, Tom Hawkins and Gary Rowan though.
To his credit, he said some good words publicly afterwards. It's no disgrace playing VFL. I'll play my role.
Yep. And I think if the attitude is keep fronting up playing great football, now we all hope, and every Geelong footballer fan hopes that there's no injuries to those key forwards. But if one did happen, you want somebody in the VFL who's ready to go, yep, I'm in good form. My mind is still totally committed. I'll step in for that 1 week, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it ends up being. And that's what Josh Jenkins has got to do. We're going to take a break soon, Scotty, because James Kelly's about to join us.
I've requested this man for years because he's going to stitch you up and it's going to be the highlight of my podcast year.
Stop it. 2 things just really quickly, though, before we go to Cal. Paul Hood, a little bit of news. AFLW coach. He stepped down as the AFLW coach. The club was keen for him to continue, but Hoodie made the decision. He wanted to step away and focus.
Did a great job. Build it from the start.
Yep. Has laid a really good foundation. In the coming weeks, they'll go through the process of finding his replacement. So whoever that is, hopefully takes them to the next step and gets them a few wins on the board and really get that AFLW program rolling. And hopefully the first AFLW Premiership isn't too far away. And the other one, this is a big celebration, Scotty. The eldest living Geelong former player,
Oh,
I think he's the eldest, Alex
Oh,
Matheson.
he want to be.
He is. Thank you, Rowan, for nodding that. He turns 100 today.
reckon there's
I don't think
more
we've got
over
any other
100?
100-year-old former players.
Who was that, Alex?
Matheson,
Or
yes. He played 7 games for the Cats.
7.
7 games
What
for the
year?
Cats. Went off to war,
Oh, yeah.
which incredible to think for these
100.
players today. They get drafted and maybe 1 or 2 years into their...
If I get
career.
to 50, it's going to be a great result. So hundreds of
You are
enormous-
already 50.
I am not. Cameron, don't. That's a legal action.
How old are you?
I'm barely in my 40s. I've just done a lot in my life in a short space of time.
No, big congratulations. 100
That
years
is so
old.
good. Well done.
I can't believe it. He 1944, he played the 7 games. Kicked a goal too. Was a centre-half back. Snuck down.
Torpedo,
Just
goal.
Drifted down. From Colac too, which...
He's one of mine.
all the good people are from Colac,
here
Scotty.
we go. I need to follow his work better.
Yeah, so if you're listening, this is the 11th of May we are recording this. He turned 100 today, so huge congratulations, happy birthday, best wishes from all at the Geelong Footy Club and us on the podcast. Enjoy the day. Celebrations of 100th birthday here.
What do you do? What's the secret?
Well, letter from the Queen will be coming.
Oh, yeah.
They still,
yeah.
Does Queen Elizabeth
She's
still
got to
do
do that.
Yeah,
She's
still
had a
does
bit on
that?
her plate, but she should still be able to type one out.
Yeah, true. Well, enjoy the day. Fantastic. What a milestone it is. Let's take a break. Oh,
Here he
dear.
is.
James Kelly's in the house. He's up next. Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on to the final bell, brought to you by Lake Imaging. Scotty.
Finally.
Oh, no.
You know, I've been requesting this, man.
Well,
I have.
I have fought. I stated in my contract I will do this podcast for all the many millions of dollars I get paid to do it, as long as James Kelly wasn't involved.
You're scared of what my man will reveal about you, and I'm very excited.
My former teammate, my great friend, a legend of this football club. I'm going to pump him up as much as I can before I get slapped in the face.
Don't be nervous.
James Kelly is with us. Cal, it is wonderful to see you.
Thank you. It's great to see you too, my friend. Scott, always a pleasure.
James, wonderful to have you. It really is, because I spend most of my time trying to get stories on Cameron out.
Yes.
Because look at him, you know, he's got a job now, which is
Yeah.
interesting. A
Full-time
real job.
employment. Yeah.
He dresses, you know, look at his nice
I dress the
little...
part. I'm not sure I'm bringing much else to the table. I've got a shirt on.
What do you do?
Ah, there it is.
Well, I'm working with the community
How's the
groups. I'm
balls there?
engaging with the alumni of St
Right.
Joe's. I'm working with their foundation, doing wonderful things, James. What are you doing?
The old alumni jobs, the cushy ones, aren't they? Oh, yeah, just a bit of alumni work.
You were a coach. and
Was coach, yeah, up until
uh,
recently.
Until start of this year?
February,
Was?
yeah.
February, yeah.
February,
So most of our listeners would know. They'd follow your career closely because they love you. But you were at the Essendon Bombers as a one of the line coaches.
Yep.
Finished in Feb.
Yep.
You are now doing...
more full-time work. Stay at home. I'm a stay-at-home dad, which is great. I was sort of, I was working, and my wife Leanne was working full-time as well, and we sort of just felt like the balance at home was a bit out. And Leanne's sort of job got extended out. February was like a critical point for her job, so when that got extended out, we sort of decided to, one of us needed to take a step back, and we didn't feel like for our house the kids were getting everything they needed, and I was pretty happy just to have a bit of a break, and it came, I think, pretty quickly for everyone else, but for Leanne and I, and it sort of was coming for a little while. But
You
yeah,
had the craziness of having to move to a hub last year,
Yeah,
all the pressure
yeah.
around COVID and everything like that. It was a point where I think a lot of people had a time of self-reflection to say, actually, we don't want to do this. It's a great decision. You enjoying it?
I love it. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think, as part of your sort of like the hub kind of maybe made you have a little bit more perspective, but that kind of wasn't the reason why we did it. The decision was made because of our current circumstances, but yeah, I absolutely love it. I think I've had a lot of people tell me they wish they could do the same. And I feel really fortunate that we're in a position that, my wife is a lot smarter than me and has a really good job. So like personally, selfishly, I can do it and spend the time at home. And I just always keep thinking no one ever gets to 55, 60 and wishes they spent less time with their children. So it's an impermanent thing. I'll go back to work eventually. But for this point in time, I'm just really enjoying it.
I just hope little Jack and Tom are terrorising the hell out of him.
Yeah.
Destroying him.
No,
Such
they're
a
good
leader,
kids. Yeah,
a
they're good
guidance
kids.
like James.
I run a pretty tight ship.
But the coaching bug, I mean, you've got it. I mean, you're having a break now, but
Yeah.
did you enjoy it more than you thought? Or because you
Yeah.
went pretty quickly into it in a sense,
I went
didn't you?
straight into it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd sort of, at the time, I was kind of having conversations with Essendon about playing again, going another year, and they were sort of a bit up in the air about it, and I knew I wanted to coach, and so I kind of put the word on them and said, I need to know what you want me to do playing-wise, because I don't want to be left high and dry without any
Miss a
jobs,
gig
trying to
somewhere
find an
else,
AFL job in October. I jumped straight into it, and I absolutely love it. I love coaching, and there's aspects of it that are challenging and difficult, and it's time consuming, and there is not a lot of time on the weekends for your family and stuff. It's a constant balance and a constant challenge, but it is a great job. I really enjoyed it, and the satisfaction of working with players and then seeing them succeed is something I'd underestimated, and it gives you a lot of perspective of the effort that coaches went to when you were playing. You think about great coaches that you had and how much time they gave you, and it's not till you're a coach and you've got your own family, you realise what that meant. And at the time as a player, there's something inherently selfish about being a player. Everything's geared towards what's best for you in your career. And I think coaching certainly gives you a lot of perspective on the players as people, and I think it gives you a lot of perspective on what people did for you when you were playing. But it's a great job. I'll end up coaching again.
Well, that leads me to this question. We are a Geelong Cats podcast, and our
Correct.
listeners, as I said, and genuinely absolutely adore you with your career here and keep a close eye on you. They will want me to ask the question, does that coaching in the future, whenever that might be, include one day back here at GMHBA Stadium?
Well, I can't answer that. I don't know. I think the coaching
Closer
group's
to home,
pretty sound.
easier to balance family.
That would be, to be able to coach at a place that you love, it would be, a dream to coach at a place like this. But, if that opportunity ever came up, I'd certainly be really open to it. At this point in time, we're still just working through the year, and, they've got a campaign that they're working on it at this stage. But if it ever came up, it's certainly a conversation I'd be really happy to have. Yeah.
They're going okay, aren't they? Have you been watching much footy?
Yeah,
They were
look,
pretty impressive on Friday night.
Just let me read the rundown.
Oh, they beat Richmond. Okay.
Yeah. I was watching them a little bit at the start, the Cats, and I was actually more watching how everyone was jumping off them a bit. They're done. They're mentally not right. Scotty's comments about coaching during the week, that few weeks ago, people were drawing conclusions with that, and I thought that was actually really interesting, sitting on the outside and watching all of that. I think in the back of my mind, I've always thought Geelong they've always had slow starts. It's just a couple of years previous, they've won a couple of those close games this year. They've lost a couple, and I think they'll do what they always do. They build really well. They're a really intelligent coaching group and a really intelligent team. And you saw that with the way they played on the weekend. As the game shifted through the third quarter, they possessed the ball a bit better, and they equalised the numbers in the forward line a bit better. And, they're an intelligent football club. They're always going to get what they need and win games.
Now, I'm always intrigued, given I think I spoke to Stephen Johnson, one of your good friends, about this, is you were young and your own career, and now telling young blokes, pulling them up on behaviour or any other such things. How did you find that balance, James? Because you'd sit there and go, oh, I did that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's plenty of that. There's a lot of hypocrisy in coaching. It's awful. But yeah, I think the way I sort of tried to do it was just use my experience as cautionary tales. Like I'd say often to players, like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but a situation that I've seen or that I've been a part of, this is the way it panned out. So make your own choices. You're able to do that. That's your call. It's your life. It's your career. But just to let you know, I've been in a similar situation, and a couple of players that I worked with really closely at Essendon, I saw a lot of myself in, and I did find it difficult being like, mate, don't do that. It's not going to work. Trust me. Like, try
It's a
this.
good idea now.
There's a player who I won't mention, but he was sort of a player that he was young and he's enthusiastic and potentially on the cocky side, and he always felt like he needed to be the king of the fun.
Yeah.
And I remember being like that as a kid, and people telling me, like people like Lingy, like saying, mate, you don't always have to be the one doing that. Like, you don't always have to be the idiot or the class clown. And I know that now, being an older person and it's the benefit of experience. But having those conversations with kids, I'm just like, mate, I know it's fun. It's so fun. But just choose your moments a bit better. But yeah, it's interesting.
That advice I gave never stopped him.
No, we were going to get to. I need a top 2 best things that Kel's produced.
That's Kel's produced?
Off the field.
Oh, okay, off the field.
Some of the characters he played, maybe. They're some of my favourites.
Yeah, so, I mean, the James that we saw on the field was one of the most treasured teammates you would ever have. Did all the work, did so many times, and don't worry, he reminds me of it often now. I just had to yell out, Cal, can you cover him? And Cal would not even miss a beat. He would just be straight away covering opponents. He'd be tackling, incredible tackler, find the footy hard. 2009, got asked to play in the back pocket and Josh Hunt went down.
We won't embarrass the great man, but that was one of the great. Imagine doing that to Cal's equivalent now would be, who's an elite midfielder?
A-grade midfielder saying we need to go play in the back pocket. Yeah. So
what did you say when Bobber said that first?
Really have much of a choice. It was one of those things. You just, your coach and your team asked you to do something.
Did you see it coming, or did you do the sums? Hang on, Josh is injured.
They tried Taylor Hunt first, and no disrespect to Taylor, but he was sort of establishing himself, and they tried him, and he sort of wasn't at the point of his career where he could do that. And they just asked me to do it, and they said, we think we just want to play you down back on those players, and I was like, oh, okay. And I sort of took it on board. I wanted to do it really well, and sitting here now, I was a part of a Premiership team, and I feel like I helped that. So I don't sit there.
Certainly,
critical part.
I think we rave on now about small forwards who can kick a goal a game and put a bit of pressure on. Stephen Milne,
he's rampant though.
Underrated as one of the great small forwards in the history of the game. Cal plays on him in the grand final.
Sniff it.
Yeah,
Cameron.
Exactly right. So that's enough pumping him up.
On the field. Back to the good stuff.
Now back to the off the field. The James Kelly on field also had this other persona as the great Naldini off the field. Now, Noel came from, hang on, I've got to get a backstory. There was a person named Noel Kelson who worked at the football club. Somehow James Kelly, Kelson became Noel Kelson, turned into the great Naldini. It's amazing how long-winded some nicknames can be.
And sometimes they happen in such... I remember that happened like in the space of... one day.
Yeah.
It was like all of a sudden I was Noel. And I was like, okay, yeah.
What's wrong with this?
And just occasionally, mainly on end-of-season trips, the great Naldini would arrive. And when the great Naldini arrived, it was a night for the ages. It was one where I sat back and often just watched, sometimes with great trepidation, but with tears rolling down my cheek, just laughing constantly. Cal, I think there was one occasion where Cal may have sacrificed himself for the good of the group and decided that he would be the bunny and run on a beach through the water while we, I'll say the others, I would never have taken part in this, may have purchased some off-the-beach Thailand-style fireworks and decided that we would use Cal as target practice as he ran along the beach. Really, any kids who are listening to this podcast, do not do this. This is not smart stuff. Cal was prepared to take one for the team. Did you get?
Yeah, I caught one in the back. It was one of those things where, that was one of those, we're talking about being the king of fun. It doesn't always have to be you. But it was one of those things. It was, the night was, I remember it really clearly. The night was getting a bit flat. We'd had a pretty big day, and I think it was actually Stokesy that came back with those little bottle rockets.
Yeah, well,
and then
listeners will not be surprised to hear that.
Unsurprisingly, and our fearless leader just was happy endorsing all the behaviour, and
I think I was very comfortable in a deck chair on the sand, and I wasn't moving. I was, at that stage, I was going nowhere.
Yeah, eating sweet and sour chicken, and getting your feet massaged. Anyway, I made the call that I reckon I could outrun a bottle rocket, and it didn't end well, but it was fun.
Your agility was quite impressive, though. You were cutting and dodging and moving. No, he was great fun off the field,
Yes.
Scott. We did live together for a year. The previous podcast, we have heard of those days. We've heard all those stories from when we lived together. Yes,
Power
The eating,
boxes,
the phenomenal eating.
I was very good at
the-
eating.
You meet your parents
vomiting.
in his jocks.
No,
and
okay.
That was one of the better stories.
Yeah, the meeting of the parents and vomiting in the background while my mum was helping me unpack my encyclopedia into my bedroom.
It was.
Mum was like, "Are you sure you want to live with this person?"
He's a leader.
It was a tummy bug. It
He's
just
an
happened to be
experience.
going around at that time.
Vodka-induced tummy bug.
That's
Mate-
why I really love Cal
That's
coming
why
on
I wanted him on.
this podcast each time.
But when you look, do you reflect back at all walking back into this joint? I know.
Yeah, I do actually.
Now, it's like it's.
I've been back here a few times in the last couple of years, and just back for different things.
Yeah.
And I actually come and watch the game of soccer here. And every time you come back, you do get those really nice, familiar feelings. And it's just a nice place to be. I have so many fond memories. You look out now and you think of yourself when you were running and were working hard, trying to achieve something. And when you're in it, you don't really appreciate it. It's like, all right, we had a good day today. How do we make tomorrow a better day? How do we make training fun on Monday when we've had a hard loss, or, we won, but we didn't play well and something's not right? How do we work through those things as a group, as leaders, as friends, and all that sort of stuff? There's so many fond memories coming back here, and it's hard not to get a bit nostalgic about it. And
Can you believe it's 10 years since that
Yeah, I
2011
know.
Premiership? Do we know what we're doing yet?
It has to.
I
Having a reunion?
texted you the other week. I was like, "What's going on? Are we doing something?"
We have reunions all the time.
Well, each year we try and get everybody together from that 5-year period, and that's everybody from the players who played on the days to the trainers who were vitally important, to the medical staff, the coaches, the VFL player, everyone together. But I assume we might do something
A little
with
bit specialer.
The 2011 team.
Well, when was it? A couple of years ago, we had a function here during a game, didn't we? So
Yes.
I was thinking maybe something along those lines. But if we don't hit the mark on that, we can do a 2.0 in October. Nudge, nudge.
We're at our best.
What
Yeah.
he's saying is I need to get organised, because since that text message where I said I'll get onto it, I've done nothing.
Yeah. Full-time work, though. You're busy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Flat out,
hard to
flat
believe
out.
he's found time for this.
It's incredible, really.
The
What a
boys,
selfless man.
we'll get a lot of the boys back. They've scattered to the wind a little bit. Stevie's in Sydney. Hales is in Sydney. Oh, Hales wasn't in 2011. Joel Corey's back in Perth.
Yep.
Guys have moved everywhere, but it is nice, that special bond that we always have, a reason to get back together.
Yeah, I think that's the thing you don't appreciate. Like we talk a little bit about at the time, you don't appreciate what's going on. You move on to the next year really quickly, but now that's something you're just really grateful for. There's an excuse to actually catch up, see each other, and you have all those conversations like, "Oh, how you going? How the kids? What have you been doing lately?" Yeah. And then it's just get back together, and it's like you never left. Same gags come out. It's a lot of fun just to get back together. And I think, I don't know about you, but when you're playing, you sort of think, "Oh, that'll be good eventually." And now we're there. Now it's so fun just to catch up, hang out.
Bomber used to tell us that, didn't he? He'd explain. He said, "You don't understand. If you can achieve this before we'd won anything, if you can achieve it, if you can win that premiership together, you will have this forever, and you will get back together. It'll be that special thing. If you don't, there's not a reason, and often you don't come back to." And when you're young and you think, "Oh yeah, righto, Bomber, Cal's my best mate, and Jimmy's my best, all these guys, Boris, Smithy, we'll always catch up."
No.
But the reality is you
Life, you
don't
don't.
unless something draws you back together.
And that's the thing. It's life and it's time, and it's the premiership just gives you an excuse. And it's awesome.
There's now just kids everywhere too.
Oh, no, that's- they're
Mackie's got 4.
Mackie's got 200
He's
kids.
got-
Oh, now he runs the footy club. Is it hard, Kel, going to another club and you're trying to get that magic that you two had and that team had for a few, and you're trying to say, well, how do I get that magic in this group?
Yeah, a little bit. I think there's some sort of the challenging part with coaching is your own personal beliefs, and then connecting those with the other coaches in the coaching group and making that work, and then connecting with the players as well, and then figuring out, what worked for you and then what's going to work for a particular player. That's 90% of coaching, how you can, get them to either buy into what works or buy into what the senior coach wants, as well as making them feel like they're making the decision, so they're invested and they value it. It's a real challenge in the way you do things.
Yeah.
In terms of trying to emulate what we had here, I really quickly figured out that's actually impossible, and it's not what you want. You don't
get that bunch of individuals again.
And the group's really different. Our group was super unique, and I'm sure really different from Hawthorn's group and really different from Richmond's group, who have had prolonged success. I think going to a club and trying to say just be like Geelong is a bit of a fool's errand. So I think trying to take certain aspects of what we did really well, things that still stack up in the game today, and just try to implement them slowly was sort of what I was trying to do. But there certainly is, you do appreciate how many moving parts there are. And I think footy clubs and footy departments are a little bit more complicated now than what they were back then, which is a challenge in itself. There's a lot more staff, a lot more people. I reckon, honestly, there's probably a bit more ego. So I think it's a constantly moving thing and a constantly moving challenge, which makes teams like Richmond at the moment and Geelong, who are always up and about, always in the top four. I don't think people really appreciate how difficult that is when you watch other teams go up and down and up and down. And, the Bulldogs in 2016, they won, and then they're way back down again, and now they're back up again. And, the prolonged success is a real challenge.
Oh, I could talk to this man all day. When it is
a different person than the one we spoke to 10 years ago.
No,
wise,
and it's always been the
Buddha-like man.
We've always had fun with Cal,
yes.
and that's one aspect of him.
You always said he'd be a coach.
Exactly,
you
exactly.
That even though he was a lunatic.
For all the fun that we've had together, and we can laugh and we can hang it on each other. At the core of it too is an extremely clever football brain, and somebody. So I'm going to embarrass him here.
I love this.
But somebody who will make a senior coach one day, because he has the combination of understanding football, the tactics, what goes in, all those different moving parts that he was just talking about, but can also relate on such a personal level to so many people. He was the one who, when every draftee came in the door, he was the one who took them out for coffee for the first time, brought them round to the house, had them playing driveway cricket, stick cricket.
Was too big, Cameron. You wait for them to come to you.
It's tough to have a game of cricket in the ivory tower, isn't it?
Right, that's it.
Not a lot of smoke.
But no, Cal, on a serious note, good. Loving what you're doing now, but one day when you eventually make the decision to come back coaching, I know that you will be very successful at it. I hope, from a selfish perspective, it is back here at GMHBA Stadium, but we'll wait and see. That's out of your control at the moment. Thank you so much for joining us. Good luck with the full-time job of wrestling two boys.
Yep, unpaid work.
Great to see you, mate.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for your kind words.
Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on to the final bell, brought to you by Lake Imaging. I'm just still recovering from
you got off light.
Too many stories.
Let's be honest. He hasn't grown up. It's a terror. He's just this messiah of knowledge.
He always has been. He always has been. It's just been more fun talking about the other things we used to get up to.
We didn't scratch the surface, but that's okay.
We had a lot of fun together. He's a
wonderful man.
Let's get to some questions from all of our wonderful listeners out there. Start with this one. This is a bit of love for us. This one's from Mel. Hi guys, love the podcast and look forward to it every week. Thanks, Mel. Every week you discuss who might come in and who might be out for the upcoming game, mainly due to injury or rotation. And for years we've had a deep list of talent. My thoughts are that any debutant to 20 gamer must need at least, say, 3 weeks to show what they are capable of and give them a chance to mesh with the rest of the team properly. Are we too spoilt for choice? Is that even a sensible question? Could it be a club rule that if you get in the side, you get a mandatory 3-week trial at it? Regards, Mel. Thanks for your question, Mel. Really appreciate your kind words. I don't believe mandatory 3-week trial, that type of thing. But your general sentiment is, I believe, spot on.
Well, Maxie Holmes came in, did his thing, played well, and
Yeah, and
medical sub after that. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah,
hard.
And maybe there's times where just because of some injuries, one player might bob up for a week. I think Ben Jarvis last year
Poor old Benny Jarvis. Will we ever see him again?
Yeah, got a debut and it
Against Richmond, wasn't it?
Yes,
In a
it was.
high-profile
Yep.
game.
And might not have been ready. What I would say is I love the idea, and I'm going to use Jordan Clark as the example here, Scotty, is if Jordan Clark isn't doing certain things that you want him to do, isn't playing a certain way, needs to add certain elements to his game, needs to build certain things into his physical preparation, whatever the elements might be, send him back to the VFL for a chunk of time.
Yes.
6-8 weeks. Get him playing not just one good game.
Be clear and communicate with him.
Yeah, and get him playing 8 consistent, outstanding games at VFL level and constantly communicating, saying, yes, that was good, fantastic, but I want to see more of this. This is what we're going to judge you on. And keep building him for that period of time. Because then when you bring him in,
commit to him.
Commit to leaving him in for, as Mel said, at least a month of football.
Yeah.
And
deal with the mistakes if you see them.
yeah, and it just takes away the element one from the individual's perspective of being so desperate, thinking, I've only got 1 week, I've got to show everything, I've got to run here, got to get that ball.
I've got to get 20 touches.
Yeah, and if I don't get it, I'm gone. So that they play tight and they play desperate and they play selfish. And it's natural. It's not. I'm not talking about a bad selfish. It's just a natural human reaction. But also, what it does do, I've seen it with other players from other teams. You give me the most highly skilled, high quality, confident young man at 18 to 20 years of age, but you put him in the team, out of the team, in the team, out of the team. They turn into a shell of a human being. It strips away every part of their confidence.
It's a balancing act. You got to get it right.
Yeah, that's why I worry. Don't in and out, in and out, in and out too often. Leave him out. But then when you bring him in, bring him in.
Eight's a bit stretched. Maybe we reduce to 4 nowadays. Just commit to a month.
Might be 6 weeks.
Back in
Whatever
your
it is,
day, in the
I'm not putting a
ancient
strict number on
times,
it.
you can put them back for that time. I don't think we can in the modern era.
But build, well, you can. If you've got the luxury, as Mel said, of a fairly deep list.
I'd be losing interest by about the 7th game in the VFL if I'm still getting 40 touches.
Well, if you lose interest and you don't think that's part of building a long-term career, I don't want a piece of you in the seniors.
Hard,
don't want to know about your Scotland.
Hard, man. Just play Jordan Clark, please.
Derek asks, last year the family picked and hoped for Guthrie, Cameron, to making elite, and we were pretty stoked with how that turned out. At the start of this year, it was Henry, Jack Henry. We didn't pick for elite, but for a breakout season instead. It looks like he may be even doing better than that. How do you think he is going, Derek? I hope we
Derek's got good vision.
touched on that right at the start.
Let us know who you anoint next year. You're batting 100.
Has been excellent, Derek. Last 3 weeks has been huge, and I think he's settling that back line down with a slightly different look.
Again, they've shuffled it, but they may have found a combination that works.
Yep. I agree. Brilliant on Jack Rewald on Friday night. Other questions. Penny Taylor. What do you think Zach Guthrie,
basketball star?
Yes.
It's good to have Penny on board.
Brings to the team? I think Zach Guthrie's one of those young players still trying to find his way and find his spot. He defends quite well.
Did some nice things, moved the ball. Yep. He's not an enigma. We're just not sure, but he's doing everything right.
I think he's copped it over the years because he has been emergency a lot, in and out of the team a lot, and then he comes in and he looks like he's 15 years of age.
Yes.
So fans say, oh, he's not ready.
Get the 15-year-old out.
But clearly Matthew Scarlett and Chris Scott and these coaches are seeing something from him that is progressing to the point. Cam Guthrie he was more advanced and more mature than Zach when he came in, but he took a long time to become consistently elite, and now is one of the premier
money in the
on-ballers.
bank every week.
Yep. Drew Fids says, small sample size, but could this be Geelong's greatest forward line duo? He said, not trio, duo.
Don't tell Moons that this question's been put up.
Mooney Nathan Ablett, Mooney Podsy Adley, Mooney Tom Hawkins. Or what about Brownless Ablett? Or throw in Stoneham as well. That's surely the greatest trio.
Duo.
Doug Wade and
I think it's a stretch, Drew, but it's on watch.
Wooler?
Who?
Freddie Wooler and Doug Wade.
Oh, look, I'm not that old.
Okay. Now, come on. Doug Wade's kicked over 1,000 goals and Freddie Wooler was captain
Brownless
of our
Ablett
63
might
Premiership
have these two covered at the minute.
Yes.
I mean, Billy was a very good player. Kicked a lot of goals.
Gaz Senior was just sort of like a forward pocket, half forward wingman for most of his career. Scotty? Just
Oh, I
bothered, just
like
had
the
the
next-
three,
the
just had
next
the 3
question.
years at full forward.
Chat, Matt.
Chat Matt says, Lingy, are you going to make your title as mayor of Geelong legit and run for mayor? Chat Matt?
It's time.
No.
I mean, you should have done it straight after your career. I mean, we had Darren Lyons running this joint, for God's sake.
You do realise
If you can't
do you
do it-
realise you're responsible for this?
Yeah,
I think you were the first to anoint
I know. It's one of my best
mayor
articles
of
ever.
Geelong.
And look at you. We got a picture of you in the robes and stuff. It was out of control. I think it's now that
Do
you've
you know
got a
there's
real
people,
job.
there's non-Geelong people
Who
who
believe
I
you were.
run into, and they're like, now, was it true you were mayor of Geelong for a while, were you?
Well, now you got a real job. The next special to do another non-real job is being mayor of Geelong.
Chat Matt,
Good
thank
work,
you for your
chat.
question. The answer is no. Charlotte Allen asks, what are some funny, unusual rituals some of the players have before a game?
Should ask Kel this. I'm tipping he had a few.
Yeah, he was...
His unusual character.
Yeah, he was lighthearted but still strangely intense before a game. Stokes and Ablett and Johnson and these guys were just... They were just relaxed, mucking around, kicking... They'd play MCG change rooms. They'd play that footy golf. They'd pick a hole like that doorway, round that corner, round there. That doorway's the hole, and how many shots to get there, and
Scarlett had to get there first and get changed straight away.
stripped early. Tom Harley was an intense unit when he was stripped, ready, running. He wanted to crash through walls.
Who was the last one to get the kid on?
Darren Milburn. Dasher had to be told. He'd be
He
there
went out the
chatting.
back having a dart,
Yeah.
so he couldn't get it on.
He probably was.
God love him.
He'd have to, the fitness guy who'd be telling, ready for your
We're ready to
warm-up.
walk.
He'd go like, Dash, get changed. I was always hidden in the docks room just having a chat about surfing or golf. I was relaxed in my build-up. Max Rook was the best combination of relaxed
Really?
until whatever moment the switch flicked.
And then he started hurting people.
It was scary. I've told this story before. I'll change the language for our listeners. But we're playing I reckon it was a qualifying final at the MCG, and I walked into the change rooms, and Rookie's sitting there reading this old sort of copy of The Alchemist, the old famous old book. He's just sitting there reading it, and I said, what? It's an interesting book, Rookie. He's like, this it started telling me about the book and everything like they're chatting. I'm like, oh, okay. That's one of the more strange, but whatever. So you go on with your own preparation, you go through things, and just before we're about to run out in the ground, I've thought, I'll say something to Rookie, just make sure he's right there. And I said, Rookie, you ready to go? And he just looked at me and said, I'm going to effing kill someone today.
The Alchemist got him up.
All right, Rookie's good. He's fine. He had those eyes, and he'd just be ready to go. He was an unbelievable teammate,
That's
Rookie.
very good.
He would spend his whole game committed to helping somebody else's role. And
impressive.
more often than not, it was mine, I must admit.
Yeah.
He'd find who you got today, Ling, whoever it
He
is.
gave him no credit.
And
he
he
just took it
would-
all the
oh.
limelight.
Yeah, and
For old
after
Rookie.
the game, I kept the bloke quiet. I'd be like, it was all me.
know, that's
Rookie
what you
did
used to
nothing
say
there.
all the time.
Cal did nothing. Joel Corey did nothing.
You
It
just take it. That's okay. We understand.
I acknowledge how very, very fortunate I was to play with some of the greatest players ever, but some of the most wonderful people. So, when Cal was talking, Scotty, about you can't just recreate what a particular good team did. Yeah, and he was talking about Geelong. He's right. It's impossible because the players of the calibre of Joel Corey, Corey Enright, James Kelly, Darren Milburn, Max Rourke, like phenomenal footballers. Those blokes did not crave one single public accolade. They did not want to be talked about in the media. They did not want
As
to
a
be talked
media
about.
person, there wasn't a lot of talking with these gentlemen.
No, but you know what they craved?
Success.
Success and teammates appreciation.
Yeah.
That was it. So you can't just say, get a player like Joel Corey, get a player like Corey Enright, Kelly, all that.
Unique.
You can't get the people like that. They incredibly selfless people, wonderful people. I am looking forward to catching up with them too this year.
Oh, well, you got a bit of pressure now.
10-year reunion.
Organise.
We better go. This has probably been a very long podcast. Rowan, our
Well, it's
producer's
my
probably
return, so we needed to make it
looking at us
worthwhile.
thinking, be quiet, please. But it's been great fun talking with Cal, answering your questions, and chatting about a wonderful win on Friday night. Hopefully they can repeat it, the dose against the Saints. Friday night, Marvel Stadium, 7:50. Hopefully get a big Cats crowd there. And there's been some good games at Marvel Stadium over the years between the Cats and the Saints.
Yeah,
Remember back to 2009.
Run into someone who had a big game in back that famous
Took
game.
one of the famous mark at the
Famous
end.
mark.
Michael Gardner.
Michael Gardner, yes. Happened to be in his company.
He's going well?
He's going very well.
Excellent. Good to hear. We better go. We will be back next week. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for your questions. Hopefully we're chatting about another Cats win next week.